by taking my... Okay. Yes, again, an apology of starting some minutes late. Deputy Minister, Honorable Kassel Mathala, the MP, National Commissioner of the South African Police, General Katlas Tole, National Head of the DPCI, Lieutenant General Lebiya, Deputy National Commissioners that are here, Provincial Commissioners and Divisional Commissioners on your platforms, the Secretary for the Police, Mr. Rabia, senior officers, heads of entities, all heads of departments, members of media, good afternoon. I hope that you are all keeping safe under these trying times of COVID-19. The impact of the pandemic has been widely documented, as well as effect COVID-19 continues to have on our healthcare system, our economy, and our livelihood. Yes, COVID-19 is also impacting on policing, infecting over 27,000 members and claiming the lives of 570 of them since it started. It is indeed painful to see our members succumb to this unforgiving virus. At the same time, we remain encouraged that over 25,000 of our members have recovered and are back at work serving their communities. While some of our members fight for their lives, others continue their fight against ruthless criminals each day. We have had to dig deep as a SAPS to make sure that we deliver on our constitutional mandate at all costs. Ladies and gentlemen, the crime figures of the third quarter of 2020-2021 financial year demonstrate crimes committed between level 1 and adjusted level 3 lockdown, which kicked in on the 15th of December. The statistics we will be releasing today expose some of the gaps that exist in policing setting crimes. They also lay bare some of the policing shortcomings experienced in certain provinces. The national crime statistics from October to December 2020 do not paint a good picture, and hence force us as a SAPS to dig deep and put the shoulder to the wheel. In the 3 months of reporting, a 6.6% increase in murder was recorded. This means 389 more people were killed compared to the corresponding period in the previous financial year. Mpumalanga province recorded the highest increase of 13.7 when compared to the corresponding period in the previous financial year. Limpopo, Northwest and Northern Cape provinces recorded a decline in their murder cases. 193 of the murders were as a result of domestic violence. The top 4 causative factors of this death are arguments, robberies at the household and businesses, mob justice incidences, and gang-related killings. A total of 2,481 people were murdered in public places like on the streets, open field, parking areas, and abandoned buildings. 1,643 murders occurred at the home of the victim or the home of the perpetrator, while liquor outlets were the third most likely place to be killed in South Africa. Overall, conduct crimes committed against a person decreased by 1.4%. A 5% increase has been recorded for the sexual offences detected as a result of police action. 12,218 people were raped between October and December last year. This is a bad figure. 12,218 people were raped between October and December last year. This is an increase of 181 cases, amounting to 1.5 increase compared to the previous reporting period. Over 4,900 of the rape incidents took place at the home of the victim or the home of the rapist. 570 were domestic violence related, and 547 of rape cases in this category involved female victims and 23 were male victims. Inanda, Umlazi in KwaZulu-Natal and the Eastern Cape Lusikisiki police station recorded the highest incidence of rape. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to take this opportunity to assure the nation that there is no shortage of evidence collection kits, also known as rape kits, in all police stations across the country. A 3-year-old contract entered into with a supplier in 2019 to provide these essential kits is still on place. The availability of the rape kits at all provinces is confirmed on a weekly basis, and replenishment is done as per the station's request. So the statement by the EFF calling for my head due to what it terms as shortage of rape kits in 70% of police stations since July 2020 is false and downright misleading. Trying to score cheap political points using the painful ordeal of thousands of rape victims and survivors is just disgusting, to say the least. This is just not true. This should have been easily checked by whoever issued the statement and find out that that's not true. Let me also remind the nation that the GBV and femicide remains a priority crime for the SAPS. We are on a daily basis improving our service and responses at station level. As the SAPS, we are motivated that numerous life sentences have been handed down for crimes committed against women and children. In the 3 months of reporting period, the FCS secured 129 life sentences. These life sentences were secured in 3 months. I really hope these jail terms also reassure victims of the GBV of our efforts as law enforcement to bring them to justice, but also assure the society out there that we are trying our best. 19 people were killed in 18 incidents of murder which occurred in farms and small holdings. While most of the people died in the hands of the criminals, unfortunately, some of those were killed by farm owners and the farm managers. There was some good news for those who own property and livestock. All property-related crimes decreased by 15.8%. Stock theft, which has been problematic over the last couple of years, also recorded a decrease of 6.9%. Burglary at a residential and non-residential premises declined drastically. Theft of vehicles and motorcycles also declined by over 20%. Assault figures show that violence stalks our society, and in many cases, the violence is aggravated by alcohol abuse. 50,124 cases of assault were opened with the police in the 3 months of reporting. The noticeable areas of occurrence of these assaults are at the home of the victim or perpetrators, public places, and liquor outlets. The crimes feared most by South Africans, which happens to be the trio crimes, aggravated robberies such as car hijack, increased by 7%. There were 77% more residential robberies in the month of October to December 2020. However, there has been some of relief for business owners. 374 less businesses were robbed during this time. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for the country's trucking industry. An increase in the targeting of delivery vans and trucks was recorded. Majority of the vehicles, including courier vans, were targeted for their cargo, which is usually food, appliances, and other price goods. Ladies and gentlemen, it is clear that SAPS must change its responses to cash-in-transit robberies. The current plan is in place now is clearly not working. There were 26 more attacks on cash vans in the third quarter of 2020-2021 financial year. Yes, on this one, National Commissioner leading the national management and all provincial management, if we are to win against this, SAPS must go back to the drawing board and work with speed. We will also, in the coming days, meet with the CEOs of the cash-in-transit industry and work closely with this community of this work. As I conclude, in spite of the bleak situation and also being in the midst of the pandemic, we must and we will do more to turn this crime picture around. On that score, thanking the members of the South African Police for being there even under these trying conditions. I remain concerned about the Mpumalanga, KwaZulu-Natal, Free State, and the Western Cape provinces, which these stats show are regressing in their fight against crime. Meanwhile, some of the provinces have shown a significant improvement in this regard, led by the Eastern Cape, which has done very well. The 4 provinces recorded over 10% increases in the crime of murder. As the Police Ministry and Police Management, we have taken a decision to have operational oversight in the 4 provinces and monitor them closely. We expect a turnaround plan to be adopted and executed urgently and effectively. Failure to do so must result in a serious consequences. Commissioner, there must be an accountable led by yourself and the management. It can't be business as usual. We must all have sleepless nights over these crime numbers. We must exact ourselves in the quest to deliver our mandate as the SAPS, which is to protect and serve the people of this country. This is a matter of life and death, and complacency won't be tolerated, and we'll put extra energy and put our shoulder on the wheel going forward. For the rest of the actual figures, I will then allow General Skukuni to give us the actual figures and the raw figures. Thank you very much, Program Director.
As is the norm, we start with the table that gives a kind of a summary of the crimes that have been reported within the borders of South Africa for the quarter starting from the 1st of October up to the 31st of December 2020-2021. The broad category of contact crimes, we have recorded murder 389, sexual offenses 270 increase, attempted murder 438 increase, assault GBH 696 increase, common assault 276 increase. Then the decreases were recorded in common robbery and robbery with aggravating circumstances, and overall the broad category of contact crimes decreased by 1.4. Rape, as the Minister has alluded, has increased by 181 incidents. He mentioned that there were 12,218. Then the category of robbery with aggravating circumstances, which we have already touched on. Here in this table below, we're giving a detail in terms of what makes up that broad category of robbery with aggravating circumstances. Some of these crimes are made up of carjacking, which has increased by 332, robbery at residential premises, 77 increase, robbery at non-residential premises, a decrease of 374, cash in transit robberies, an increase of 26, there were no bank robberies, and there was an increase of 111 in terms of the truck hijacking. These crimes, ladies and gentlemen, have already been reported to under the robbery with aggravating circumstances category, under the broad category of contact crimes. Then the next slide, we look at the per capita, or what is normally called ratio per 100,000 of the population. These are instances whereby we take the whole population of the country, divide it into equal proportions of 100,000, and then measure the crime that have been reported within those 100,000 for specific crimes that are crimes against the person. The bottom table there gives that the murder is 10.5 per 100,000, rape 20.4 per 100,000, attempted murder on average was 8.5 for the 5 years per 100,000, assault GBH 83.8 per 100,000, common assault 80 per 100,000, and common robbery 19.8 per 100,000. These figures and the population estimates that were used were obtained from Stats SA using the 2017 series and also the month of October as the midpoint to compute the population as at that particular point in time. Then the broad category of contact-related crimes, malicious damage to property increased by 1.5. Then robbery, property-related crimes, all the crimes within this broad category have decreased. Burglary at non-rest decreased by 1,629. Burglary at rest 8,903. Theft of motor vehicle and motorcycle 1,673. Theft out of motor vehicle 5,761. And stock theft by 583. As I've already mentioned, these are all decreases in this particular crime, and the broad category of property-related crimes decreased by 18,549. Then other serious crimes, the only crime that has increased within that broad category was commercial crimes. And then on crime detected as a result of police action, the objective here, because it's a proxy for proactive policing, the ideal is to have these crimes increasing because it shows that more and more people and crimes are being detected. The only crime that has increased within that broad category was sexual offenses detected as a result of police action. Then when we look at the summary visually in terms of a graph, we notice that the blue line there represents, the green line is the 2018-2019 financial year. The blue line represents the 2019-20 financial year, and the yellow line or the gold line represents the 2020-2021 financial year. And then at the bottom there we have differences per month. We have for month of October, the month of November, and the month of December. And then the blue, I think bluish line, it shows the instances whereby the country was at level 1 lockdown, and then at the end, towards on the 15th of December, the president announced adjusted level 3. So these crimes should be taken and analyzed and conceptualized in the context that we were at level 1 lockdown for that particular period. Then for all the 17 community reported crimes, all the provinces recorded decreases. As it has been indicated on the previous table, the broad category of the 17 community reported crimes all decreased. Then in terms of the stations that had reported the highest number of 17 community reported crimes, we had Honeydew, we had Park Road that are in the top 10. We have Johannesburg Central, Durban Central, Mitchell's Plain, Witbank, Cape Town Central, Kraaifontein, Temba, and Plessis Lair. The rest of the stations can be seen from the table. What is also encouraging is that even though the stations are in the top 30, one can observe that in terms of case differences, they have recorded decreases. The only increase comes at number 8 with Kraaifontein. Then when we look at the selected crimes that were as a result of domestic violence, we observe that for this particular period, the crime of murder, we have recorded 193 murders that were domestic related. The provinces that contributed the most to this crime was Western Cape with 42, Eastern Cape with 39, KwaZulu-Natal with 30. And overall, the victims of domestic related murder were 97 female and 96 were male. Gauteng and the Western Cape had the highest rape-related cases that were domestic-related. That is 138 in Gauteng and 136 in the Western Cape. Assault GBH, again it was Gauteng and the Western Cape. The rest of the crimes are indicated as such, whereby the sex of the victims is indicated in the blue line, where we have male and female, and then at the bottom we have the total for the country. Then in the next slide is a graphic representation in terms of the month whereby the crimes have been recorded. In October, we had 92 domestic violence related murders. We had 23 in November, and we had 78 in December. That is the murders that were domestic related. Then contact crimes, again, it shows I've explained the green, the blue, and the gold. These are the differences that were recorded in October, November, and December. And then in terms of the provinces that had recorded increases, we had the Free State, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, and the Northwest. The rest of the other provinces recorded decreases in the broad category of contact crimes. Then in the top 30 contact crime station, we had 7 stations that were in the Western Cape. Gauteng had 17, and then KZN had 6 stations in the top 30, meaning the top 30 contact crime stations are made up of only 3 provinces, that is Gauteng, Western Cape, and KwaZulu-Natal. Then we looked at the causative factors for selected crimes. We looked at murder, attempted murder, and assault GBH. In terms of murder, the most common causative factor for murder was arguments or misunderstanding, followed by robberies, house or business, then gang-related, and also vigilantism. Taxi-related murders that were recorded in this period were 89, and 57 victims, unfortunately, were rape-related, whereby the victim was raped and then subsequently killed. Illicit mining were 16, and those that resulted as a result of a car hijacking or attempt were 18. This is drawn from a sample of 5,773 cases that were reported in the quarter 3 of 2020-2021. Then attempted murders, the highest contributor again was arguments or misunderstanding with 1,442, then robberies, and then gang-related 378. This was from a sample of 4,900 cases that were reported. Similarly, assault GBH. So across all the 3 crimes that we have identified, murder, attempted murder, and assault GBH, the highest contributor collectively is arguments or misunderstanding. Then we look at the places whereby these 3 identified crimes occurred. Then again, we see that public places in terms of murder was the highest contributor, followed by residences of the perpetrator, also indicating that in the previous slide where we mentioned that most of these murders happened as a result of arguments and misunderstanding. This is further supported by that they also happen in the residences of the perpetrator, victims, showing that there is some kind of a relationship mostly between the victim and the perpetrator. Similarly, attempted murders, the highest place where this occurs were in the residence of the perpetrators and assault GBH. Liquor outlets were recorded 399 murders and 4,488 assault GBH. Educational institutions, 7 murders were recorded as such facilities. This includes schools, universities, colleges, daycare center, and facilities. 11 attempted murders happened at such facilities, and 89 assault GBH. Also at tuck shops, that is mostly robberies, 27 of the murders happened at tuck shops, 21 attempted murders at tuck shops, and assault GBH were 31. Then when we look at the contact crimes where it was specifically mentioned that either the victim or the perpetrator had used alcohol prior to the commission of the crime, we see that 516 murders happened whereby it was confirmed that either the victim or the perpetrator had used alcohol. 1,383 rapes where the victim or the perpetrator used alcohol, and assault GBH 5,722 where alcohol was involved. Of those incidents that happened exclusively at a place whereby they are selling alcohol, like liquor outlets, taverns, and shebeen, the 399 murders happened at such facilities. 167 attempted murders happened at where they are selling alcohol, and 44 rapes and 4,488 assault GBH happened at such facilities. Then, in terms of the murders, the narrative is the same because the graphs are set almost in a standardized format for ease of understanding. All the provinces that had recorded decreases were Limpopo, Northwest, and the Northern Cape. When one looks at the volume in terms of the number of murders that have been recorded, the province that recorded the highest volume was the province of KwaZulu-Natal with 1,437, then followed by Gauteng with 1,327. Third was Eastern Cape with 1,204, and then Western Cape with 1,134. However, when one takes into consideration the population within the respective provinces, the province that recorded the highest number in terms of per 100,000 was the Eastern Cape with 18.4 per 100,000, Western Cape with 16.2 per 100,000, KwaZulu-Natal with 12.4 per 100,000, and the Free State with 10.4 per 100,000. Then, in terms of the top 30 murder stations for murder, most of the stations were in the Western Cape, that is 11, followed by Eastern Cape, 8, Gauteng had 6, and 5 were in KwaZulu-Natal. And in the top 10, only 3 provinces featured in the top 10, that is Western Cape and KwaZulu-Natal. The Eastern Cape only comes later on at number 11 with Mthatha as the top 30 station, in the top 11. Then we've already touched on the causative factors for murder. In this instance, we are just simply indicating in which provinces these causative factors were most prevalent. Most causative factors, like we have indicated, were arguments and misunderstanding, and the province that recorded the highest number of murders related to misunderstanding and arguments was KZN with 368, followed by Gauteng with 229, and the Western Cape with 163. Then, in terms of business robberies, Gauteng recorded the highest number of causative factors attributed to robbery with 104, and then the Western Cape with 55. Gang-related murders, Western Cape recorded the highest number of gang-related murders with 187, Eastern Cape number 2nd with 42, Gauteng number 3 with 10, and then the Free State with 7 at number 4. Taxi-related murders were mostly recorded in the Gauteng province, and the Western Cape followed with 28, whereas in the Gauteng province we had 34, Western Cape had 28. Then we also looked at the murder of police officials. In this current quarter, the blue line indicates members of the police service that were killed while they were on duty, and the gray indicated number of police officials that were killed while they were off duty. 5 members succumbed while they were on duty, and 12 succumbed while they were off duty. In total, we had a decrease of 5 police officials that were killed. Then, when we look at the murders at the farming community, we had 18 incidents of murders with 9 victims, whereby 7 of these murders happened in the Free State and then 4 in the Eastern Cape. And then on the table next to it, we had other crimes that had occurred whilst these murders were committed. Then on the next slide, we look at all the attacks on small holdings and farms, including the murder that we have already talked to. We had 109 counts in 88 incidents, and we had 52 robberies at the residential premises, 2 rapes, 1 malicious damage, and 9 theft of motor vehicle. Then in the next slide, we look at attacks on farms. We look at the farm dwellers or farm workers that were attacked as a result of farmers or farm management. We had recorded 3 murders that happened as a result of the farm dwellers being attacked as a result of the farm owner. Then the rapes, we had recorded 12,218 rapes, and then the provinces that recorded the increases in rapes was Gauteng with an increase of 111. Then Limpopo, we had an increase of 109. Western Cape, we had an increase of 106. And in Mpumalanga, 59, and the Northwest, 19. Overall, we had 181 increases in terms of rapes. The top 30 stations for this particular crime, 10 of these stations were in Gauteng, 7 were in the Western Cape, 4 were in Limpopo and KZN, 3 in the Eastern Cape, and Northwest and Mpumalanga had 1 station each in the top 30. Then when we look at the place of occurrence for these rapes, most of these rapes happen at the residences of the perpetrator or the victim, including residents known by victim or perpetrator, either a family friend or neighbors. 4,904 rapes happened at such places known to the offender or the victim. 920 were in the Eastern Cape, and we had 922 in KwaZulu-Natal and 769 in the Western Cape, whereby these rapes happened at the residence known by the perpetrator or the victim. And at educational institution, we had 24 rapes happening at such facilities. These numbers are extracted from a sample size of 7,933 cases of rapes that were recorded in the 3 months of 2021, starting in October up to December. Then the trio crimes, which are made up of carjacking, robbery res, and robbery non-residential, collectively added together to form the trio crimes. We had Free State recording an increase in that particular category of trio crimes, and also KwaZulu-Natal, Mpumalanga, and the Western Cape. Then the top 30 stations, over half of these top 30 stations where trio crimes were recorded were in Gauteng. To be exact, 15 of these stations are actually in the province of Gauteng. The highest there within Gauteng was Ivory Park, Tembisa, and Honeydew. So those are the top 3 stations from Gauteng that are in the top 30 trio crimes. Then, in terms of hijacking, we had recorded 332 more cases of carjacking. And residential robbery, we had 77. Non-residential robberies, we had a decrease of 374. And we had also included the robbery of cash in transit within that slide to keep the numbers at the minimum. Then these are the graphical representation where we had illustrated where carjacking had increased. Then the provinces, the Eastern Cape recorded a decrease in terms of this particular crime, and Free State recorded the same number as in the previous court. The rest of the provinces recorded increases. Then these are the top 30 stations in terms of carjacking, and again, Gauteng had 16 stations in the top 30 carjacking stations. Then robbery at residential premises, The provinces that had recorded decreases was the Eastern Cape, Gauteng, Limpopo, Northwest, Northern Cape, and those that have recorded increases was Free State, KwaZulu-Natal, Mpumalanga, and the Western Cape. Then the top 30 stations in terms of robbery residential, they are indicated there, led by Places Liar in KwaZulu-Natal, followed by Ivory Park and Honeydew. Then robbery at non-residential premises, we had recorded decreases across the 3 months from October, November, and December. And the only provinces that had recorded increases was Free State, KwaZulu-Natal, and Mpumalanga. Then those are the stations that have recorded robbery at non-residential premises. Then robbery at cash in transit, it has increased across all the 3 months in October, November, and December, and the provinces are indicated there at the bottom. Then property-related crimes, we have indicated that it has decreased across all the crime categories, then including stock theft, where we had also recorded decreases from the month of October, November, and December. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a summary of the Q3 crime statistics that have been reported between the month of October up to the 31st of December 2021. I thank you.